Welcome to part 2 of how to write MCQs. In part 1, we discussed the steps of writing MCQs. We start by defining the key knowledge you are going to ask about. Then you write down the stem, avoiding the common mistakes we talked about in part 1. After writing the stem, we write down the alternatives. And we always start by writing the correct answer or the key response first. The key response or the answer should not contain leading phrases from the stem. The leading phrase usually facilitates guessing for the uninformed student. The key response should not contain phrases taken directly from the lecture or taken directly from the textbook. Otherwise, you will actually be testing recall of knowledge and not understanding. Let's take an example. Take a look to this stem. Which of the following describes the course of the ulnar nerve? Asking about the course of the ulnar nerve, choice C includes the muscle carpi ulnaris, and ulnaris may be a clue. This is a leading phrase. Changing the answer to flexor digitorum profundus eliminates the chance of guessing. Another example, asking about the causative pathogen of malaria. Considering these three options, option C, Plasmodium malariae, definitely contains a leading phrase. If you change this for Plasmodium vivax, then you cannot guess unless you know the answer. It is important to write good distractors so that the student is considering and thinking about all the distractors as possible answers. To begin with, please avoid silly, obviously wrong distractors. Sometimes we exhaust all the possible options, like in this question, for example, asking about primary hyperparathyroidism. You cannot have options other than normal serum calcium, elevated serum calcium, or lower serum calcium. Unless you combine serum calcium level with another parameter, any proposed distractor for D will be either silly or out of context. This is another example. A patient with obstructive jaundice may suffer from deficiency of water-soluble vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin A. There are two types of vitamins in a broad category: fat-soluble and water-soluble. Choices C and D are silly as they are already included in A. You can change the alternatives by using one fat-soluble vitamin as an answer and three water-soluble vitamins as distractors. How to get a good distractor? This is an important part that should be mastered by all of you. A good distractor can be an incorrect statement that seems right to the uninformed student, or an accurate statement, but it is not the answer of the stem. I'm going to give you some examples. Which of the following is considered a specific primary prevention for influenza H1N1 infection? A. Immunization. B. Frequent hand washing. C. Screening patient's family for H1N1 positive throat swabs. D. Early diagnosis of suspected patients. The correct answer is A, because A is a specific primary prevention. Now look to the distractors. Distractor B, frequent hand washing, is an accurate statement. Frequent hand washing can prevent H1N1, but it is not the answer of the STEM because it is not specific primary prevention. Distractor C is a wrong answer, but it may seem correct to the uninformed. Some students can recall that during H1N1 epidemics, we screen patients' family members, but this is not done for prevention. It is done to detect possibly infected family members and treat them. So these are two examples of how to propose accurate statements that are not the answer, or wrong statements that seems correct to the uninformed to function as what we call plausible distractors. This is an important slide. Distractors should be related or linked to each other. Distractors should be of the same category. The item should be asking about a specific area. Example, this question is asking about diagnosis, about treatment, about prognosis. If it is not like this, it's otherwise a multiple true and false question. I'm going to give you an example. This is a typical example of an unfocused question. Which of the following is true as regard typhoid fever? A, caused by gram-negative cocci. B, may cause intestinal hemorrhage. C, diagnosed by Vidal test, is positive in the first week. D, trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole is the drug of choice. Now, you can notice that A is asking about the causative organism. B is asking about the clinical picture. C is asking about investigations, and D is asking about treatment. You are actually asking about everything in the lecture of typhoid fever. This is a multiple true and false question, which has a very low discrimination. Knowing the correct answer does not mean that you know the other distractors are wrong. By the way, you can easily spot an unfocused question by cover the options rule. If you cover the options, you will not be able to guess the alternatives. We can make this question focused by asking about, let's say, the treatment of typhoid fever. The treatment of choice for an 8-year-old boy with uncomplicated typhoid fever not responding to ampicillin is, and here we list 4 options. All of them are drugs used to treat typhoid fever, but not for this particular patient. Only one of them is correct. For example, quinolones cannot be used in children. Sulfamethoxazole should be combined with trimethoprim. It cannot be used alone. The child who did not respond to ampicillin will not respond to amoxicillin as well. And the correct answer is 3rd generation cephalosporins. This is a typical focused question. You know exactly what you are asking about. I would like the student to select the proper treatment for typhoid in a patient with a given scenario. I'm sure you're asking yourself, what has Mickey Mouse to do with what we are talking about? You'll know in a second. There are several mistakes that we can unconsciously do while constructing the multiple choice item. These mistakes can help students to guess the correct answer. In the following slides, I'm going to show you examples of these mistakes. I'm going to use a funny exam, and I call it the Mickey Mouse exam, as I bet he's intelligent enough to guess. For each slide, I'm going to give you a few seconds to try to guess the correct answer. Then I will reveal the answer and explain how could you guess. Mind you, some questions has no sense at all, and I do not repeat the same mistake. So that's question number 1. The most important component of graphic construction is graphic construction framework, virtual complementary toolkit, numerical additive platform, digital equivocal broadband. Of course, it is graphic construction framework because that's a clue, graphic construction. The lesson learned? Avoid using phrases directly from the lecture or from the text. Question number 2. The area of San Diego Zoo is 1,000 acre, 1,820 acres, 2,000 acres, 3,000 acres. Yes, it's B. B was written in a very accurate form, while the other alternatives were not written in a similar way. All alternatives should look similar. Another hint: arrange any data in a chronological order and avoid overlap of figures when the options are representing a range. Question number 3. Atomism is being small like an atom, a behavioral change in children, the philosophical doctrine that explains complex phenomena in terms of aggregates of fixed unitary factors, or a physical concept explaining behavior of atoms. Yes, it's number C. It's very obvious. It is written in great details. And mind you, students know that the long answer is usually the correct answer. The lesson learned? All alternatives should look similar. And be aware that we usually tend to add more details to the correct answer. This always makes it longer. Question number 4. Beethoven is a famous German composer known for his Ninth Symphony, born in 1770, or all of the above? Correct. It's all of the above. Even if you don't know that Beethoven was born in 1770, just by knowing that he is German and he composed the famous Ninth Symphony, you will choose all of the above. So please, avoid using all of the above and never use it as a correct answer. Please avoid using none of the above as well. It's a little bit tricky, but it can easily confuse clever students if the options are not written very precise. Question number 5. Atsugi is located at the confluence of Sagami and Nakatsu rivers, South Korea near the northern borders, the Yellow Sea between Japan and China, or within the consortium of the Indonesian islands. Yes, of course. It's number A. If you are attentive to grammar, you will easily spot how students will guess. They read it. Atsugi is located at the confluence of Sagami. This reads correctly. The other alternatives do not read properly. Atsugi is located at South Korea. Atsugi is located the Yellow Sea. Atsugi is located at within. All of them were not written with the same precision. So be attentive to grammar. Avoid grammatical clues. Be aware of using the single or plural, a or an, he or she. This usually occurs with the distractors. Question number 6. Which of the following are members of the Carnegiidae family of fish? The white shark of the Atlantic, moon, pilot, and pompano fish, the tuna fish of North Sea, the Balti fish of the Nile. That's easy. Again, it's grammar. Which of the following are members? And this is the only choice that matches a plural. Question number 6. As regard biological values, values are always accurately determined. Values are never low. Some values may be inaccurate. None of the values are absolute. This is a little bit advanced. The correct answer is C. And the lesson learned: never use absolute terms. Try not to use them. Some absolute terms, such as always, never, all, or none, should not be used in the distractors. Intelligent examinee know that almost anything is possible. The terms may, could, can are clues for the correct answer. Imprecise terms such as seldom, occasionally, sometimes, few, many are not uniformly understood and are better avoided. And this is question number 8. Which of the following Chinese letters spells Jiang? Okay, that's the answer. If you were attentive, you might have noticed that the answers were following a pattern. A, B, C, D, A, B, C. So that would be D. I'm not kidding. It was statistically noted that teachers unconsciously make these patterns. And statistically speaking, teachers unconsciously locate the right answer in B and C much more frequently than A and D. And students know this fact. And they know that choosing B or C for a guessing choice is more likely to be correct. So, vary the position of the right answer and avoid a pattern. That is the end of part 2 of how to write MCQs. Part 3 will discuss how to write MCQs for higher order levels of knowledge, namely application and analysis.